Welcome, Amit, and a formal welcome to this call. And before we proceed, thanks a lot for taking out time on a Friday night. I can see you are very busy for the PGP outreach, doing multiple sessions every week. Uh, Most of those sponsored ads are also reaching out to me. So I could see that you are very busy. And again, I'm sorry I had to postpone it because I was not well, but you agreed immediately to the next proposed date as well. So thank you for that. Uh, just to inform, we as a community, you have been supporting us since last 3 years. Is the fourth time you are with us. So again, thanks a lot for that as well. We have continued to contribute to 2.5% of the batch as every year this year as well, from
Great.
extremely diverse candidates such as dentists, CAs, people from PSUs and yeah, similar kind of background to very, very run-of-the-mill candidates like engineers and quantitative finance, and some consultants also have joined in the current batch. S- Uh,
Great. Great.
there were two people who were rejected in R3 outright, but with the same score, same profile, they made it in R1. There are
Wow.
4 or 5 people with GMAT score as less as 645 who are currently at ISB, again busting the myth that a high GMAT is necessary. So I just wanted to update you because after the
Yeah.
result of last year, we are meeting for the first time. Uh, so, uh, Amit, do you have to say anything to everyone present before we start the
So,
Q&A
yeah,
session?
happy to note the progress, and it's always a pleasure, to come and interact with people. And our endeavor at ISB admissions team is to ensure that candidates have the right information
Yes.
and the right guidance. So as much as possible, of course, we can't come and guide you, but I'm sure LMs like Anshul are there to give you much more deeper insights. But wherever possible, we'll always take time to come and interact with you, and we give you the right insights and inputs. I hope that helps, and this session is towards a step in that same direction. And look forward to an very encouraging session, very enlightening session. I hope for all of you. And Anshul, thank you for all your efforts over the years. In terms of mentoring the community, and look forward to this session.
Thanks, Amit. So, again, as I have mentioned, we have done it before also. My aim is to, before we even proceed to answer some questions which are specific to someone's profile.
Mhm.
I try to spend most of the time with you to
Mm,
demystify the entire application process. Many a time I talk to reapplicants, as in
mm,
the people who had applied last year, and I'm very surprised that even though you do so much of outreach at
mm.
so many places, still people are not aware about how exactly ISB takes admission. Most of the
Yes.
time, they are shooting in the dark, which is
Right.
kind of surprising to me because if you are serious about a school, you should
Mm.
know what is the ethos of that, ethos of the
Exactly.
adcom of that school. Every school has an ethos around which the admission revolves. For example, INSEAD wants people with international work experience.
Mm,
Something like Columbia or Booth, they expect people to have social impact experience. So
mm,
similarly, ISB also expects a few things, and my aim every year is to demystify the entire process. So Amit, for the first question, that
mm,
is ACADS. In 2023, you clearly mentioned that you are not looking at 12th,
mm,
and it was not even asked in the application. I
mm.
could see it came back.
It came back. Yes,
So
last year it came back.
yes, so what exactly is happening? Can you just clear it for everyone?
Yeah. So, we actually are looking to now diversify the academic section as well.
Hmm.
We understand that, for undergrad scores, one particular instance, or, one particular semester, we have found people, where they were not well, their scores may take a hit. So we're now also looking at diversifying the whole section. We look at not just your, undergrad scores, we look at your undergrad institutions, we look at your undergrad degree, and we look at 12 scores. So this is more an attempt to give more chances to candidates who feel that, because of maybe one particular instance, or maybe, not having a very good score in your undergrad, you kind of take a hit. So this is more of attempt to diversify your academic profile section for people and to give them more chances to, make it to the cohort.
Okay, got it. Thanks for that, Amit. Now, I'm assuming you are dividing it into three, below average, average, and above average. Is that correct? The CATs.
No, it's not that way. We don't
Okay.
divide it into average, below average, or this thing. There are various factors into play. We look at the universities, also the institutes also, and degrees. And then there's a normalization across those degrees as well. So it's not just on a very simplistic 3-point scale. The scale is much wider, I can assure people. And although, a lot of people in the feedback would say that it is that way, but I can't specify a scale in the feedback when I give to candidates, but it's not a 3-point scale. It's much more diverse.
Okay, fine enough. Now let's come to GMAT or GRE. So GRE median decreased a bit by 1 point, but GMAT median
Yes.
increased by a lot. We were not expecting it.
Mm,
So how are you?
mm.
How any comments on GMAT or GRE?
Yeah. So again, it's a function of both this exam test takers brought in the new tests in the last 1 year, and it's a function of the percentiles of those scores and the test. So as I mentioned earlier, in a lot of sessions, we essentially look at percentiles and scores that are proxy for a percentiles, and this keep changing. So if you look at our median scores last year, the median was 645, which was equivalent to 93 percentile in GRE around that time. And this year, the median is also shifting. So it's the median is more towards 65, which is more towards 93% on 92 percentile. So it's that function. Now, another important thing with GRE is that, a lot of our test takers from GRE, where people, or quite a few, I won't say a lot, where people who had taken their online tests, because
Yeah.
GRE is a function of, the test centers are not that spread out compared to GMAT, and a lot of people used to prefer online or at-home test. And last year, we are not taking on at-home test at all, either for GMAT or GRE, and hence the applicants for GRE were slightly on the lower side
Yeah.
last year compared to the year previously. And that's also a function of your the scores, and ultimately the scores are a function of percentiles, and they match the year-to-year
Yes.
criteria.
So I just wanted you to bust the myth that GMAT is preferred. So many people are
No,
saying
no,
it, and I keep saying it's not the case.
it's not the case at all.
Also, there is new myth floating that companies are preferring GMAT, which is also not true. Two
Or
of my
not
mentees are currently at BCG with
Yeah,
GRE.
yeah. And in fact, we in the placements or CAS, as you might be aware, we're not required to mention your GMAT or GRE's
Correct.
scores on your resumes,
And unless they want to. I mean, if
unless
they
they want.
want,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, thanks a lot. And Amit, so again, are you dividing into scale of below, above, and below average, average, and above average for GMAT, GRE as well?
Roughly, for GMAT, we have a wide range. So I
Okay.
can also talk about the range for GMAT that we have.
Yes.
So
Yes.
565 to 785 is the range
Yeah.
for GMAT,
Yeah.
where we have 69 as the average, and 675 is the median for GMAT, the focus editions. And
675 is the
interestingly, this
mean.
year, of course, by not median score, and
Yeah.
669 is the average for
Yeah.
the class current in the class. It's not a function of your applications or interviews, it's a function of the people in class. And interestingly, for GRE, the range is even wider. So if you
Yes.
look at GRE, the range is 306 to 338, and the median is 328 and the average is 328. Now, of course, people with 306 or in the 3 till 310 maybe a handful, but we have a much wider range across both GMAT and GRE this year. There are a lot of people about 311, 315, and 320, with of course other stellar parameters.
Yes. No, so Amit, I was
But my
talking.
advice to candidates will be, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Please continue.
So my advice to always candidates would be that don't get swayed by the ranges or averages. Look for the best possible score that matches your other parameters, and always strive to be closer to the median. And that's a kind of a safety buffer or net. If you're above median, I think then you can also maybe play around with other parameters. But don't get swayed. But what it says is the range says is that you still have a chance if your other parameters are on the stronger side.
Okay. So now from the application perspective, if someone is applying with a GMAT or GRE score or an ACAT score with some ACATs, so you are giving some weightage to ACATs and GMAT. So
Mhm.
how are you giving the weightage? Are the weightages divided into three parts, below average, average, or above average, or there are more scales in
They
the
have
weightage?
more skills. It's a much wider skills
It's a much wider scale while evaluating also.
while evaluating. Yeah.
Okay, fine enough. So someone with a very high GMAT or GRE score will actually get a higher
Yes.
score than someone which has
Yes.
above average.
Every 10 points matter. It's not that, that if you are up in this range, you get this particular score. No,
Okay.
every 10 points will matter.
So every 10 points would matter in GMAT, and what about GRE? Every
Same
single.
with GRE. Every point will matter.
Okay, every point will matter. Okay, thanks. I mean, that really demystifies this part because many people have, again, no clue. Now, let's come to work experience. So, work experience, as I understand, is divided again into two bracket. One
Mm.
is your years of work ex, and
Mm.
second is your progression or quality, as you.
Progression, quality, exposure, as we call it. All three will be this roughly, yes.
So, it is two or more than two, I mean.
Mostly two buckets. Now,
Okay.
the individual weightages can vary for both, but what I can say is that, the sweet spot for WorkX is between 4 to 8 years for PGP. Now that PGP while has also come in with for 0 to 2 years. So sweet spot of WorkX is 4 to 8 years for people roughly. Uh, it's not that people with less than four have a very large disadvantage, no, or people higher than eight have a no, not at all. But you can always cover up with your other parameters, other strengths, and so on and so forth. But that's a sweet spot for WorkX.
Okay, Amit, you say 4 to 8 years is the sweet spot, but the average work ex of the current batch says otherwise, which is 3.5 years. How do
Yes.
you explain that?
No, no, no. Current average is 4 years and 1 month as of now for the batch.
Oh, it's not
That
three.
was last year's. No, no, it's not three. It's 4 years and 1 month for the batch. And we will take into account that we're still having YLP people and early entry option people
Yes.
coming in, and that will come in for another year or so, and will taper down from next year to end in the next year, and then we'll see the true impact of the WorkX in
I
the
think for
class.
one more year, while P and EO will still be
YLP
there.
and EL will be there.
Okay, makes sense. So 4 to 8 is the sweet spot. So that is your years of work ex. Now the next bucket within the work experience bucket is progression. So how do you see progression?
So progression, we look at in terms of lot of things. Now, somebody could be working in a PSU, visually somebody could be working in a startup, and their progressions are going to be totally different. We can't compare
Correct.
those people. So here we'll look at your responsibilities, how they have changed over time, and not just designations. We look at salaries and not just salaries. Also, we also look at your exposure, whether you have had exposure to different projects, whether you have international exposure, and so on and so forth. And again, a lot of times people ask me this question, which organization do I work? Does it matter? I would say yes and no. For example, you're working in an organization where you have a lot of exposure. Let's say you're working in Amazon, where you have a lot of exposure in a particular area. It matters. But let's say you're working in Amazon for last 5 years in an admin role,
Yeah.
right, where your exposure is lesser.
Yeah.
It may not make that much difference compared to somebody who's working in a not so well-known organization, but with relevant skill sets being built. So it's more about building your skill sets, what skill sets you can show to which you bring to the table at ISB and beyond. That's what matters. So look at that, and that's how we also evaluate your work progression.
Okay, so now Amit, ACATS, GMAT, and years of work ex is very objectively scored. How
Hmm.
are you scoring this progression and everything?
So again, we look at evidences of progression. Salary changes could be one, role changes could be one, and as I mentioned earlier, that not everybody or every organization will have similar. So those are also benchmarked. Second is we look at your growth in terms of projects and achievements. How what kind of growth you have in terms of your work changes, the skill sets that you acquired. So that is what's judged in terms of, and that's why the reviewers who review those profiles are actually very experienced and senior folks who review the work-ex profiles of the candidates. For ACADS, of course, there is
Yeah.
a lot of normalization, but for
Yeah.
this, you need to have a discerning kind of review happening for the work-ex profile.
So who exactly is reviewing the WorkX, Amit, if you don't mind
So
sharing?
senior people, not just the work-ex, the entire applications,
Yeah.
are reviewed by senior people from the admissions department,
Okay.
admissions team, and beyond.
So last time, Amit, you said three people from the current batch are reading the application. Did something change last year?
No, 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 no. That's it. I didn't say they're reading the application, they're reading the essays, the
SS.
first level of essays.
Yes.
So, of course, the initial vetting of essays is done by volunteers from the current batch also, but the actual assignment of scores happens by the senior team members of the admissions team and beyond. Of
हाँ
course, people who are uh,
Bollywood में भी
faculty members as well.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that is the work experience part. And how is the rating done? It is rating, there must be some scale. So like how, because for others it was very objective. How are you rating the quality of work experience? Like, is it average, below average, or like is it like a continuous rating
No,
of
no, there is again a
exams?
scale. There is again a scale, and
Okay.
it's an in-depth scale. It's not just on a very simple three-point scale. It's an in-depth scale. Work as
Okay. Done. So so that is the work experience part. And then there is separate weightage for essays. Okay. And
well.
essays.
Weightage for essays, letters of recommendation, and your activities, and they serve a dual purpose. They also have a weightage in the interview side of things.
Obviously, this
So
people
what
do
we
not this
say is the yeah.
sorry to interrupt, Amit. I want you to elaborate on this because many people don't understand. They prepare the entire
Mm,
application as if application is something different, interview is something different. They don't even think about interview while
exactly.
writing the application. So please,
Yeah.
you have said this
Yeah.
again and again, I know in the past also, but I want you to elaborate on that.
Yeah. So essays, letters of recommendation, your activities, and of course, other parts also to an extent. But these three have slight weightage in the profile score, but they also have a higher weightage in the interview side of things. So what we say is quantitative evaluation and qualitative evaluation. Quantitative evaluation is your profile parameters, what we talked about now, and qualitative evaluation is in terms of your, again, the interview part of things where essays and in that, I'll break it down into three key things. One is what are your current skill sets, and that includes your hard skills, your soft skills, your awareness of your work, and not just what you do beyond what you do in terms of which industry you work in, how
Yeah.
your work relates to your larger teams, larger organizations, teams in the organization and the organization itself, and the industry, and again, beyond that. And the second point is what are the skill sets that you're looking at to acquire at ISB or through an MBA? So have you done a gap analysis in terms of,
Yeah.
these are the skill sets I have, and these are the skill sets I need to reach where I want, right? So that's the second point. And the third point, of course, is where do you want to reach? Your short-term and long-term goals. So your three things are interrelated. You are currently at one place. You want to, acquire some skill sets to go somewhere, which will, the entire package will help you get there. That is a story that we are looking at, and that story you have to build not just in essays. Of course, essays are a very important part, but also in other aspects of your profile. When you write your work experience, highlight those areas which showcase those current skill sets.
Yeah.
Highlight those when you talk about your extracurriculars, highlight those things that showcase again the complementary skill sets on where you want to go. For
Yes.
example, you want to go into finance. Then there's no point writing about a case competition in the first year of undergrad and you work in the one in the area of marketing,
Yeah.
unless it's very major, maybe at a national or something. Then write more about finance stuff. Show yourself as a numbers person, right? That's the narrative that we're looking at, and that's the narrative you should build in the application. While it's a canvas. You don't just fill series of forms there. You paint your picture, your story there, and that story, if you do it right in the application, you don't have to prepare for interview. It's all there automatically. The clarity is already there, right? So use the application to get clarity is what I'll suggest to all the candidates.
So, Amit, you talked about importance of short-term goal and long-term goal.
Mhm.
Last 2 years ago, this particular essay was made optional, and from this year, this essay has been completely eliminated. So, isn't it
Hmm.
contradictory?
So we one reason is that for people who want to explore, and a lot of people gave us a feedback. If you are forcing us to write long-term and short-term goals, we want to we are kind of forced to take a stand in the essay itself, that I might want to go into consulting and so on and so forth. And we agree that's also a thing, because a lot of times, and that's the purpose of an MBA. Also, the first few terms, core terms at ISB, that you come, explore your strengths and weaknesses, and then maybe decide on the specializations you want to do, and plan a career. And it so happens that people come and fix it on, I want to go to consulting, but they end up, once they take the core courses, they feel that this is not where I want to go, but this I find more interesting, and that's what I want to do. But having said that, even though the essay is not there, it will be a part of your interview. It is something that will be talked
Yes.
about and touched.
I just
For
wanted you to say this because I
yes,
keep telling everyone you cannot
yes,
avoid post MBA and post MBA short term and
you,
long term goal in
you
the
cannot.
interview. Yeah.
An idea of not having the essays is so that you're not committed to something early. You can prepare, and you can have options: plan A, plan B, plan C. Right?
Yes.
A lot of people do that. It's perfectly
Yes.
fine to have plan A, plan B, plan C. But what the interview panelists will look at is how logical are your plan A, plan B? How do you relate to your skill sets which you already have, and what you
Yeah.
intend to do at ISB? What thought you have given? That is more important. That clarity is what we were looking at,
So
and you won't
that
escape that in the interview. I'm sure, so better to anyways write it down for your own,
yes.
clarity.
So exactly, even though when the portal opened and the SS changed, at least from the in the community, I am making everyone to document their entire post MBA and pre MBA goal, and not one, but at least two, if
Hmm.
not three, so that
If
you
not
know
three.
what exactly you are
Hmm.
planning to do once you reach there. Okay, Amit, thank you. My last question on from this topic is, uh,
Hmm.
so you said essays, extracurricular, and achievements and all. So do they have different weightage, or they are combined and then a weightage is given?
They have different, but they have slight weightages in the profile score section. The
Huh.
more a judgment happens in the interview side of things for them.
Okay. Now, before we talk about interview, Amit, I just want to talk about the trends. Till 2023, anyone who had a higher GMAT, specifically 740 plus, in
Hmm.
classic, I'm talking about, not the
Hmm.
focused,
Hmm.
obviously, they at least got some scholarship. I'm not
Hmm.
saying they definitely got an admit, but if they got
Hmm.
an admit, they got a scholarship, which
Hmm.
clearly showed that a very high GMAT had a kind of a higher role to play in the entire admit scenario
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
Last year, something changed. Uh,
No, no.
I know some 100 percentile guy who didn't get any scholarship.
Hmm.
He's currently in the batch. There was
Hmm.
another
Hmm.
100 percentile person who was waitlisted till 6th or 7th of April. Thankfully, he got an admit. He was this
Hmm.
close to getting a reject also. So definitely the weightage that you are providing to ACADS, GMAT, work experience, quality of work experience, essays, interview, there is some changes. Some changes have been done. So can you elaborate on that?
No, there are no major changes. There are certain tweaks which we did, and that too from a point
Yeah.
of view of diversifying, as I mentioned about the CADs, diversifying your CADs, and also in terms of the experience of the candidates in terms of application per se. Now, people you talk about people who 740 not getting a scholarship, or somebody who's 100 percentile being on a wait list. This could be anecdotal cases where we have to look at what the other parameters were, and how the interview went. And believe me, I've been giving feedback to a lot of people over the last month or so. And a lot of people, I ask them, what do you think about your experience last year? So they end up saying, I think my GMAT is lower because my interview went very well. And then when I tell them, your GMAT is perfectly fine,
Yeah.
it's an interview which you need to change. So there are a lot of things there where you think may have had done well, but they may not be obvious to the candidates. So I don't think we have changed drastically anything. Of course, there are minor tweakings that we are done, which are done every few years, couple of years. but there's no drastic changes to any of the parameters that we have.
No. Parameters are the same,
Yeah.
Amit, for sure.
And the weightage
But
is
the
also.
weightage provided.
Weightage is also not no drastic changes to any of the weightages.
Okay. Point taken. Uh, Now, engineer non-engineer ratio kind of remains the same, but constantly the male-female ratio are increasing. Like now it's 50, last year only it was 50-50, now also it is 50-50. So are you planning to maintain the
Yeah,
same?
47 right now,
Yeah,
47,
almost
53.
50-50, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So again, it's not something special that we're doing to change this ratio. One thing we are seeing now is an increase in applications from our women candidates. So it's not just at the interview level or at the admission level, enrollment level. It's also at the entire funnel that we see an increase from applications to people
Hmm.
getting higher GMATs to people having stellar profiles, people having diverse profiles. So it's a function of our pool that we're getting in. And this pool has been diverse over the last few years, so there's nothing extra that we have done for women candidates. It's just the way the admission process is, and we're not looking at giving any restricting this also. It's if we are a merit based school. Tomorrow if we have 70% women who come through merit, it's good, because that's the way we run. We're not going to restrict people just because there are 50% of one group or 40% in one group. Same with the engineers versus non-engineers. So it's again a function. If you remember, last year we had more non-engineers than engineers, and that was not by design, right? And now again, next year we had 57% engineers. This year again we have around similar percentage of engineers, and that's not by
53% the
design.
engineers
Yeah,
this year.
53, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's not by design, right? It's what it is. It's through the process. The process is fair and open, and that's how people come
But
through it.
the narrative which is floating around, Amit, is that ISB
I
has been
know, I
very,
know.
very unkind to male engineers.
No, I mean, that's a narrative, and I think that you and me have to, talk about it on suitable forums.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not that we have given any additional weightages for women. It's all that the funnel itself is increasing across various stages.
Okay. Anything different you noted this year which you'd want to share with people? Any drastic change in the ways the batch was formed or something very distinctive that you'd want to share with people who are.
This year, what we did was, we took a lot of initiatives to make, the process much more user friendly. We
Hmm.
incorporated a lot of technology in the application process specifically. So if
Okay.
you've noticed, last year the portal was new. We hope it is, user friendly now for, a lot of candidates compared to the previous portal. And this year, last year we had a few teething problems with a lot of with a few things. I'm not sure a lot of people noticed, but we at the back end did notice, and we're working on those things to make it even more smoother this year. So you'll see, some innovations being brought out in terms of how we engage with you in terms of queries, in terms of helping you, in terms of your problems that you may face on uploading documents or such things. So that's a continuous process that we embarked on last year, and will continue to improve this year also. And that's something I'm sure I'll also take feedback maybe at the end of the cycle, or whether people found it people actually found it user friendly, or we can do much more better next year.
Okay. Now, Amit, the feedback, I am getting very good feedback about the feedback that you and your team have been providing this year. People were not happy last year, but this year they are
Hmm.
getting the answers that they were seeking. But
Hmm.
there are many people who are still waiting. So
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
get the feedback. So would you want to
Yeah,
tell them where
I
when they
yeah
can
I
expect?
understand. That the feedback process which we started in 2021. In
Yes,
that year, there were hardly any takers for
because
feedback.
people didn't know. This year
People
I
didn't
did
know.
a lot of
Yeah,
outreach on my
yeah,
own
yeah.
to
People
seek
didn't
feedback.
know. Yeah, so people didn't know. I think we had handful of 50 or 60 people who actually reached out, and we are happy to provide the
I'm sure
feedback to
this
them.
time it is around
And
four to
over the
nine.
years, it has grown. And this year, the numbers are really very high. for feedback. We are trying to meet the demand for the people who are the feedback. But rest assured, we'll reach out to you shortly, and we'll complete all the people who have registered the feedback at least by 15th of July or 31st of July. All of you will get the feedback, so you can apply in by round one or round two, whenever which is your preferred round, with complete information.
Okay. Nothing majorly changed. Now let's talk about the interview part. I don't think nothing has changed majorly from the interview part. It remains the same. The parameters also remain the same. So, do you want to say anything about the interview part? Anything new?
We have actually, added what we call the written assessment test before the
Yeah.
interview.
Yes.
So you now write an essay or two before your interview, and now what we call the on-the-spot essays.
Yeah.
So these are something which is what we felt is that in the essays people can use technology well
Yeah.
and fine. People can
Yeah.
use help. They talk to mentors. They should talk to different peoples, and then maybe talk to alums, and then maybe write down their own genuine thoughts which they can defend in an interview. But we also felt that we need to have a essay where we can gauge their people's on the
Yeah.
spot writing and communication skills. So that's the only reason for that particular essay. The weightage is minimal. It's part of the interview, but that's something which we're looking at beyond the essay. The content doesn't matter. The style of writing, what you how you structure a thought, that matters more. Unlike the essays in the application, where we look at more the content, what you're talking about, the strengths, weaknesses, which we discussed, and which you may have to defend in the interview as well.
Okay. So, is there any particular weightage given to those assessment in the entire process? Because none of, I mean, last year, no questions were asked really from that written
Yeah,
assessment.
that's just a slight weightage, which is not the LMs will not. I mean, the panel will not be asking questions on that, but it's a slight weightage, which is part of the interview overall.
Okay, there is a slight weightage given to the written assessment test, but nothing people should really worry about. At least
Nothing
the
to worry
people
about.
who have
As
spent
long
their
as you
own
can,
time.
yeah, as long as you can structure a sentence in a paragraph, that should be perfectly fine.
Okay, fine enough. Yeah, I remember it was there during my time also. Not two, but there was only one. But then it
Only
was later scrapped, and then it came back last year.
make a comeback. Yeah.
Okay, that's I think that is all from my side. Now I'll take the questions that people are asking in the chat. So Rishi is asking how to show the salary change in the application because it only asks for current compensation.
Yeah. So salary changes will happen. Uh, you know, One is salary change which happens to designation changes. So you can split your work experience into two parts. Then, of course, if your number of years of work ex are higher, then that will be incorporated anyways in the application. And then we have base salaries, and we have year-wise salaries. Those are something which we look at. So don't need to worry. But if you have got a designation change, then I'll encourage you to split your work ex into two in the same organization.
Okay. Amit, again, there is a narrative that if your salary is too high, which is higher than average CTC provided by, not provided by, means average CTC at ISB, then it is a disadvantage.
No, it's not a disadvantage from the admissions point of view. It's something which we which you should reflect in terms of your aspirations and the reasons for doing an MBA. So why people feel that is there are a lot of people who have different reasons for doing an MBA.
Hmm.
Salary is one of the things, and of course, for most, it's a primary thing. You transition role, you move to higher paying roles. But for some people, they just want to transition, maybe take a step back and launch into a different industry organization altogether. So for such people, initial salaries could be lower depending upon which industry and function they're targeting. And also for some people, salaries are not guaranteed in the not for some everybody are not guaranteed in the placement process. Although our average salaries are what they are, but we also have a huge range, right? We have people getting in seven or eight figure whatever number you call it. Plus people are getting slightly lower than the averages. So, but that's not guaranteed. So if you're comparing, saying that, my current salary is, let's say, 40 lakhs per annum, which is higher than the average salary, look at what skill sets you have and
Hmm.
whether, do a research in terms of whether you can expect higher salaries if there's the only criteria. But if you look at a long-term prospects, then some people will also need to take a salary cut and come to do an MBA. So those are the things we'll expect people to have clarity on. And that's what, if it's missing, then you have an issue in the interview or in the admission process. Otherwise, just by saying your salary is on the higher side, nobody's going to reject a candidate.
Okay, makes sense. So, again, this every year people ask and I answer, but again, this question keeps popping up. Any cap in the number of admits in R1, R2, and R3?
No, not at all. It's
Okay,
purely profile, the score based. If you meet the cutoff in any of the rounds, you have an offer.
okay. Fine enough. Uh, and according to you, I'm sure you have seen the trends in so many years, where the number of applicants is higher, R1, R2, or R3?
So
I
typically,
imagine R2.
yeah, R1, R2 is almost similar, I would say. R3 is slightly lesser for the only reason that, it's late in the year cycle and your results will come out by March first week. So for people whose, notice periods could be a concern, I would always recommend them to apply earlier because if your results, we cannot be, telling you in February that you are going to get an offer, you might get an offer. No, your results will come out on a particular date, let's say it's 2nd or 3rd March this year, and then your classes will start in April. Again, we won't be able to make an allowance saying that, okay, you come 2 weeks later. If the classes will start on 14, they start on 14. Hence, a lot of people will, apply lesser in terms of in round three, but even then, that is fine. It's not very low. So I would say it's a 35, 35, 30 split across rounds. What I've seen, it varies from year to year, of course, but that's how it usually is. In your year, maybe it would have been different. So,
Yeah, yeah. It was pretty different back then. Okay. Very interesting question, and this was my question also. I completely forgot to ask. Samek is asking, what was the intent behind changing the essay topics this year?
so yeah, we have just tweaked the essay topic slightly. You see, it's not a drastic change. What we are looking at remains the same for both the essays. It's just a slight tweak to the essays where we want to fine tune basis what the reviewers' feedback was given last year on how the essays turned up. So that's the only intent and no other intent. We keep changing them, once every while depending on how the reviewers give their feedback on and how the interviewers give their feedback as well on the essay topics.
Okay, fine enough. Again, I keep saying every year, I keep giving multiple examples that there's nothing wrong with reapplicants, but people are still asking. So, what do you want to say it officially?
Yeah, so we do not look at reapplicants with any bias at all. Your application is a fresh application. In
Yes,
fact, you have lot of advantages of
yes,
being a
yes,
reapplicant.
definitely. Yeah. Every year I
You
see
can,
they
yeah.
doing really well and getting scholarships also.
Yeah. So you get the chance to have feedback on your last year's application that actually maybe might help you clarify a lot of things about your profile. Second is you get a fee waiver as well. Your application fee is half. And third thing is you get to write an additional essay. And some people will say that's an additional essay. Why are you saying it's an advantage? It's an advantage because it helps you get a chance to showcase to the
Yes.
interview panel some of your most recent skill sets.
Yes.
So those are the advantages. Otherwise, we don't go back to your last year's applications. We won't compare and check your last year's goals or essays. No. Feel free to change your application. Feel free to totally modify your goals. Feel free to totally rework on your essays. Perfectly fine. No issues there at all.
Okay. Manju is asking, how do you look at uh, applicants from unstructured or freelance background because they can't show hierarchy or growth?
Hmm. Yeah. So there we look at your, projects that you've worked on, and in terms of the impact that you've created.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I also, my entire essays were based on my freelance work and I didn't impact my application as if I remember correctly. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
Harshit is asking, how does ISP see candidates with a functional shift as a goal? which means, uh,
Mhm.
I mean, if they want to
Same
move,
industry, but
yeah,
different functions.
yeah.
Uh, it could work to your advantage. It could, depending upon how you structure narrative. Now, there's no bias to that. I don't think that we see them any differently at all. If you look at the stats, around 75 to 80% of people in every batch for the last 4 years are having a functional shift. Two-thirds of them have both functional and industry shifts, right? So, when the whole batch is having a functional shift, we don't look at it any differently. Only thing is, I would say people with higher years of work experience are people who might want to target this having a functional shift only vis-a-vis not having an industry shift because they've already worked in a particular industry, they have their domain knowledge of that industry, and they want to shift functions. And I see countless examples, of so many LMs have done that. People with 12 years, 13 years of work experience. In fact, I know somebody who was a 2007 LM, a long way back. He worked in Ambuja Cements and he did in the manufacturing side of things, technical or production side of things. He did his ISB MBA and he was immediately placed as vice president for the whole plant. So that's perfectly fine. That happens to a lot at ISB.
Okay. People are again asking the same questions. I don't know why. How does ISB see this profile? How does ISB see that profile? Even though all these years, I have mentioned it so many times, it's all about how you represent your profile, how it's all about how you talk about your achievements, how you talk about the contribution that you can make to the ISB community. So again, uh, can you please talk
Sure.
about it? Because people are asking, how
Yeah.
does ISB see a CA who wants to make to shift into management consulting? How does ISB see this
So
person moving to that person? So
yeah,
can you
see,
please,
that's a very common route at ISB. We
yeah,
have a lot of CAs, we have a lot of engineers, we have a lot of non-engineers, and everybody moves to finance, consulting, product management, tech, and so on. So all those are very, common transitions which we have. So one of the key, offerings or key advantage of PGP is to ensure positive career pivots. So what we're talking about, CAs, engineers to consulting, or engineers to finance, or CAs to consulting, all this is very much possible, and it happens on a regular basis. I mean, right now, let me give you some examples of some not so common transitions, and that will put things in perspective. If those can happen, then what you're talking about is really something which is very commonplace. Now, there's somebody who was a film producer with Dhamma Productions. Dhamma
yeah,
Productions is, and he came to ISB and he's transitioned into consulting. There's somebody who was an Indian Idol finalist. She was in the top five in Indian Idol, and I personally interacted with her in one of her events. And she was in the artist management industry. After Indian Idol, she worked for almost 7 8 years there. She transitioned into I think tech, totally different industry. I know of a school teacher who was a IB board school teacher in one of the prominent schools in NCR. She came to ISB and she has moved to a consulting company in an education domain. She
yeah.
wanted to be in education, but she now works for an organization creating large scale impact in education domain, handling assignments. So transitions are totally possible, but depending upon how clear you are in terms of your transferable skill sets and what skill sets you acquire at ISB.
Okay, two or three people have asked, is there any problem for finance for people who want to get into finance? Because only 12% of the people got into finance last year. And my answer was always the same, that it's because most of the people who come to ISB, they go to consulting or product management. It's not because opportunities are not available for finance. There are enough opportunities. Do you
So,
want to
in
comment
fact,
on
if
that?
you look at the numbers from last year's report, this year's report is yet to come. Finance was higher. Finance was not just 12%, it was close to 28%, is what I remember. So, look at the latest report and you will see finance also is again growing. And all this is always a function of your uh, demand for the particular, where do the students want to go, right? So, finance made a comeback last year, big time at ISPS.
Okay. So, but the 2025 batch placement report is not yet updated. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It usually comes in the month of July, August,
Okay, so
every year.
that there it will be more than 20%, you're saying. Okay,
Yeah, it should.
that's really encouraging. Okay. Rishabh is asking, how is the VC and startup ecosystem at ISB? I have personally seen the VC placements really increased in last 2 to 3 years. So any
Yes.
comments on that?
Yeah. So placements have increased. Of course, there are a lot of opportunities. I encourage you to look at the companies. I don't have the names of the companies off the hand, but what I can talk to you about is the startup ecosystem at ISB.
Okay.
And recently, we had those annual PitchBook rankings. We are ranked 20th in the world in terms of startup ecosystem worldwide. We were ranked number one in the country. And so many, I think 12 or 13 unicorns now founded by ISB, and a lot of startups are incubated at ISB. And we have what we call iVentures at ISB,
Yeah.
which is where under which we have two incubation centers. And at ISB, any student who wants to be an entrepreneur, we offer them a unique opportunity. You can start building your business plan while you are at ISB. You can take the entrepreneurship subjects. You can, interact with the mentors at ISB and so on and so forth, and submit your proposal to the incubation centers. Now, once you graduate, that is before graduation, but you will be incubated once you graduate. After you complete a course, you'll be offered office space in the incubation center. You'll be offered mentorship. You'll be offered, connects in the ISB ecosystem to help you grow your venture. Now, if you scale up in the next 1 year, you have those MVPs and whatever milestones you need to achieve in the first year. Well and fine. If you think it's not working out for you, you come back to the ISB placement process next year and sit for placements and restart your corporate journey. So that's something which we offer to our students, and that every year we find that there are a lot of takers for this particular opportunity that we have for our students.
Okay. Uh, Now, Sinjini is asking, is how would you assess candidates from a very niche background like ESG and sustainability? Because it's not the kind of skill set that people typically come in with. My answer is that it's beneficial that you're coming with a very niche subject, but Amit, what do you want to say?
Yes, it is definitely beneficial. And we, in fact, have public policy as one of the specializations,
Yes.
one of the areas you can specialize in, a lot of courses in that area. So, and a lot of organizations come to hire ISB at ISB placement process in that area as well. So, a lot of opportunities in that area. Look up our policy specialization courses, and we'll get you answers there.
Okay. Now, lot of geopolitical and macroeconomic changes are happening. So, do you think that applications are going to increase monumentally this year? Because people who are targeting US and Europe might not do the same this year and end up applying to ISB and keep ISB as their target school.
So, I think over the last few years, or last at least 4 5 years that I have been, at the helm for admissions, we've seen a lot of applications from students. A lot of applications are really strong, even from people who intended to go abroad, because ISB is a global B school based right here in the heart of India. So people always had ISB as an option. People who are looking at global education worldwide. Now, this year specifically, with a lot of people not able to travel abroad, there maybe people feel that ISB can become very competitive. But let me tell you, we are we are competitive even last year or earlier. The cutoffs
Yeah.
remain the same. It's up to you how you are able to meet
It
those
was
cutoffs.
competitive during my time also. It was never less competitive. There were never a dearth of candidates really working hard and wanting to go to ISB. Okay.
And if you look
Again,
at schools globally, there are a handful of schools where people will go, uh, uh, after leaving ISB. I should say. So it's and the people going abroad are not just going to those schools; they're going to a lot of other schools as well. So I'll encourage you all to look at ISB similarly as last year, because our cutoffs remain the same. We are
yeah.
looking at you in terms of your skill sets, in terms of your holistic profile, and it's not that we look at just high scores, or we just look at one or two other parameters. We're looking at you holistically.
Number of seats is going to remain the same, right? Amit,
Remains the same.
820,
It remains the
820
same.
something or 840 something.
820 something, yeah. 820 something.
Okay, fine enough. Now, people who are coming from entrepreneurial background and slash or family business background, how are you going to evaluate them? Because there will be a lot of parameters that they might not have, like salary, uh, promotions and things like that. So, how are you going to evaluate that?
Yeah. So people who come from a family business background, one thing is that, I'll suggest that at least start getting a salary credit to your account. That if you're not doing so, that helps in, ensuring that you have some proofs for your family business. But now that by virtue of being working in a family business, there are a lot of things that can be asked to you, right? You have to be thorough with your family business. I have, personally interacted with people who say that, or they work in the family business, but then they're not aware of the macro aspects of the business. They are just working maybe in one particular section, or they just are aware of one particular section. For people with family business, I encourage you to understand your business in the entirety, how it relates, what are the macro factors, what are the micro factors, and so on and so forth. That will help you at least in the interview part of things. From the application point of view, will require your proof of income, that you are drawing in income from the family business. You are full time working in the business, and your detailed responsibilities are what we mentioned by on a company letterhead signed by the competent authority, who is not a family member. If it's a single person family member, then it is a self declaration, of course. But if it's a slightly larger, then a competent authority has to sign that these are the responsibilities that you work on, and then those responsibilities are, of course, you have to be thorough with, along with the micro factors of your business for the interview. But we don't have any bias against people who are from the family business.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why people asking because I've already mentioned enough. I've also giving examples of every year people who are full time into family business making it to ISP.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Very good question. People who have taken career break, how
Hmm.
does ISB see them? I have seen
Yeah.
people with big career breaks even currently at ISP, and people who also joined McKinsey, BCG, and Bain even after a career break. So there is
Even
absolute
after that, yeah.
disadvantage, but
Yeah.
again, can you
Yeah,
answer?
we don't look at them negatively in terms of any scores, but of course, when you're going to go to the interview, you'll have to talk about the reasons for the career break, what were the learnings, and so on and so forth. And here the trick is not to be defensive about your career breaks. And career breaks do happen. We've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, pandemic and beyond. People take career breaks for medical reasons. People take career breaks because of this economy. People have career breaks because they choose time off from due to mental health. People travel, and it's perfectly fine to have a break. But the reasons should be sufficiently explained, and also in terms of the learnings from that particular break and what alternately you are doing. For example, if nothing, if you're not doing anything in a career, you took time off from mental health, maybe, and wellness, perfectly fine. That's okay. It taught you something, maybe patience, maybe a way of appreciating life, and you came back rejuvenated and with vigor. Mention that. Let your story be honest, is what I'll suggest to candidates here, and there should not be a bias in that regard.
Okay. Now, this I also want some more clarity. How much LOR is important?
LOR is important from the interview point of view for the LMs to the panel to cross validate your skill sets with somebody who has been in reporting position. Now, what happens is a lot of time candidates men think that this is what I am, right? But we also want an independent view of how others view them, and then the panel will be correlates them from for the interview purpose. That's one. And second is that the profile reviewers also correlate them at the time of profile score generation.
Okay. Now, people talk about moonlighting, and I always say moonlighting is an issue from corporate perspective, not really
Mhm.
from
From
ISB application perspective. So if you have been working and also building something in parallel, which is what I did during my application, it
Mhm.
it helped me a lot. But people still are asking, is there any
Mhm.
problem from ISB? In my answer is it's actually advantageous. But what
It's
would
an
you?
advantage, yes. Yeah. it's an advantage if you're going to talk about it. And also, it will be a part-time activity. It won't be a full-time activity for people. So that's something which you need to keep in mind. You can only have one full-time activity at a time. Whatever you do outside the office hours is a part-time activity, and you feel free to showcase part-time activity. But again, it's the same question: what are your skill sets? What skill sets you acquire from that activity is something which you might be, you might need to elaborate in the interview to the panel, and it might be a plus if you're able to explain. It could go south if if it's not adding anything to your profile.
Okay. Now, million dollar question. What exactly is important in the LOR? Does the hierarchy of the person who is writing, does it matter if you're getting the global CEO of the company to write your LOR? Will it matter?
No, 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 no. It doesn't matter that way. See, the LOR has certain questions which only somebody who has worked closely with you will be able to do justice to those questions. So choose somebody who you have worked with. If you worked with the CEO, maybe even 3, 4 days in a month, he knows you well. He knows your skill sets. He could have mentored you, maybe, or has taken a couple of sessions with you within in a month. If he has that kind of a rapport with you, then I think choose that person. But ideally is somebody who is your reporting manager, because they work with you day in and day out. They give you appraisals. They talk to you about your daily situations. Those are the right people, like in my opinion, to choose as LOR as recommenders.
Okay, fine enough. Uh, Again, I'm taking a step back because someone has asked this question, and I again want something from you. Like, what exactly are the ethos of ISB at Com? Like, uh, what are the highlights in a profile from ISB point of view?
Yeah. So we're looking at people who have, leadership potential, who showcase initiative, who showcase problem solving mindset. That's one. We're looking at people who are critical thinkers, people would look at a problem logically, and be able to solve it. And we're looking at people who show innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. So people who have patents, or people who have been creative, or people who have had their own ventures in colleges, even smaller ones. Those are activities. So there are three different things that we look at in our candidates.
Okay. Now, does ISB verify anything that you have mentioned in the application? It has never verified, but would you want to?
It does verify through various. The whole application is the
Yes.
essays and other things is all part of
I always say
the
interview is the best verification process.
interview, the applications, everything. Even what you write in your essays, vis what activities you showcase. That itself is a verification process. That's why I say to candidates that when you write your applications, make sure that it is, a canvas on which you paint your picture. Everything has to be in sync. You can't be conflicting in the application itself.
Okay. Okay, fine enough. Huh. I just mentioned in the starting of this call, Amit, that there were two people who got rejected in R3, but then got immediately accepted in R1, same profile, same score. One even got 25% scholarship,
Wow.
which was surprising to me also. But these people often ask what to write in the reapplicant essay, because there is only just a few months of difference between last year R3 application and then this year R1 application. So what would you suggest to these people?
So, reapplicant essay is something which is, a space for which you to enter your more recent achievements. Either could be personal, could be professional, anything new that you have done. Some people will talk about, this is what happened in my last year's interview. That's what I felt I was not good at. So I started a blog, which helped me improve my communication skills, and which gave me an insight into. And now my blog has reached so and so. Even if it does not reach so and so stats, it's still an expression of my creativity thing, which is like what I started. And this is the skills I've gained from that. Some people could talk about promotion, some people could talk about this thing, but whatever you write, it's short that the panel will be reading it, and that's a good conversation starter in the interview. So a lot of conversation gets started from that particular place. Oh, you were a replicant, and since the last time you've done this, let's talk about this. How did you feel? And that, if that goes on in a good note, the interview follows like a suit. So write something which you're very comfortable talking about, which shows some aspects about you and which you can talk about passionately to the interview panel.
Okay. Now, uh, Amit, uh, let's talk about interview a bit. So, what all, again, because alums take the interview and alums are human beings and every human being come with a certain kind of bias. So, what all steps that you take to ensure that there is no personal bias of any interviewer creeping in and might be destabilizing the entire admission process?
So will you go to great lengths to match the panel with the candidate in terms of their, industries, in terms of their functions. We try to have a diverse panel in terms of people coming in from different batches and different experiences and exposures. And then we have a workshop which is done for alums. One workshop which is done at the yearly level, and then before every interviews, the panel is briefed and they watch a video of the workshop
Yeah.
or of the interview taking techniques at ISB, which ensures that they are in sync with the interview guidelines that we have for ISB interview panelists.
Okay. Now, Amit, to what extent an interview can make or break the entire chances of a candidature? Because I understand a interview score is one of the parameters, but the interviewers also have a subjective comment to write, right? At the end of the interview.
Hmm.
How much
Hmm.
are you looking at that subjective comment? Because some interviewers can write a very strong comment that, oh, this person is not really suitable for ISP. But number wise, that person might still make it above the cutoff. What would you do in such case?
Hmm. So it's all numbers. See, it's all numbers. Subjective comments are meant for the feedback for the candidates. Essentially, subjective comments are not uh, uh, you know part of the scoring process. The numbers are, of course, the scoring
Correct.
process. That's something which we encourage the panelists to write subjective comments so that the candidates are have some feedback mechanism for them to understand their interview processes. So we can't, the scores may not convey anything to the candidate about how the interview went, but when the alums take time out to give some feedback to the candidates in the subjective comments, that can help a lot of candidates in the next year in case they don't make it to the class this year. So that's the only point of the interview. And again, interview go no go kind of a stage. It's a stage in the process. Is added together, and then we have a cumulative score. So interviews don't decide whether you get in or no. It is just some a part of the evaluation. If your other parent, in uh, you know, still you could have you could make it to the offer list. Uh, so that's how it is.
Okay. Now, Manju is asking if people have very broad interest, which is expected. People can have very broad interest. So how to communicate that in the interview? Won't they look very scattered in their head or not really sure about their post MBA goal? Or because we just discussed the importance of post MBA goal, clarity about post MBA goal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. See, broad. Your broad goal, it can't be that I also want to go to marketing, or I could go to finance, or I could go to consulting. You say, my current skill sets is that I was an engineer. I learned logical and analytical skill sets. Worked in a company where I now data oriented. I know aspects of how. Now I want to understand business. management roles, or maybe go into consulting roles. For both these roles, we require somebody who's has a broad understanding of data, analytical and logical mindsets and skill sets. And why I want to go there, because I will be able to make the best use of my short term goals and eventually be able to work across industries to start. That look at from 5 year perspective. Consulting is or consulting finance or right after ISB is something which is a 5 year perspective. You will do it for only 5 years, maybe, or then maybe you will CFO from 15 years perspective, break it down into those.
Sorry about it, Amit. Something happened to my internet. So,
Yeah, no
oh,
problem.
okay. Sakshi is asking if someone is interested in roles like FP&A and corporate finance, what kind of opportunities would be there given that finance roles are limited ISP? Even though we just discussed it is
So
not.
finance rules are not limited. Yeah, we just discussed they're not limited. Consulting was highest in as per the last placement report on 32%. Finance was the second one last year, I would say. In the absence of product management, which used to be second, we know the situation in that particular area, but we still had a lot of people roles there. So finance is not that it's limited. There are a lot of opportunities. We look at the last 5 years placement reports, look at the organizations. It's just a function of what people want, on the campus. So if you're wanting to go into finance, you will definitely get roles in finance. Not to worry about that.
Okay. Again, a very specific question, very niche, but any opportunities in legal consulting if someone is from public policy?
So we have, in fact, a lot of lawyers also every batch. I'm unsure in your batch also you'll have had
Yes, yes.
lawyers.
One of
Yeah.
my one of the
So
lawyers from my batch is a director of legal department at BCG today.
wow,
Yeah.
great. So, in fact, at every batch, I have met at least one person who's from the law background, and a lot of them go on to work with diverse areas or interests. And of course, a lot of them take up courses in public policy also because that helps. I know somebody who went into international business in HCL. I know of somebody who went on to work with a large education conglomerate as their head of governance and policy. So a lot of opportunities in consulting. Also, there are a lot of opportunities. We have impact consulting firms coming in, and that's some area where you could have opportunities there as well.
Okay. Now, product management have is not the second most, uh, you know, uh, like profile
Hmm.
in terms of placement anymore. As you said, it finances. And again, there is a narrative going on that the product management opportunities are decreasing at ISP. What would
They're
you?
not decreasing at ISB per se, they're decreasing worldwide as of now. We have seen what has happened in the last 2 years with companies like Meta, Amazon, and others. But even in this current scenario, when there have been layoffs, these companies keep coming to ISB, they keep recruiting people in their areas, but the numbers have gone down. In terms of the large hirings where once when we saw 70, 80 people being hired, we are seeing 20 people being hired in certain areas or companies. So it's not that those companies are not coming in because we have a long-standing relations with them. They do come in, they do take people, but the numbers have been going down because of the scenario that we've seen in the world. Every company in the area of tech in abroad or in India is not hiring in that particular area. A few of them. So there we've seen that numbers have gone down, not the relationship of companies with them. They do come and they do still hire, but not at that numbers. And it will grow again as the situation improves. But we are seeing the geopolitical situation right now with the various wars and other things. So let's see how it plays out.
Okay. Pratibha is asking now, and this is my question also. I don't know if you will be able to answer it or not. We talked enough about all the different parameters, that is ACADS, GMAT or GRE score, work experience, which is divided into two parts, the quantity of work as well as the quality, which includes the progression and all. And then essays,
Hmm.
LOR, etc., and then interview. How much weightage is given to which parameter and which is one of the most important parameters?
So, of course, I can't give you the weightages. That's not
Yes,
something I can
I
answer.
know.
That's something which is part of the process. But what I can do tell you is that none of the weightage is as high that, if you do well only in that parameter, you'll definitely get in. Or none of them is as low that, if it doesn't matter to your application at all. So, the reason that we have a very diverse and holistic class in place among all the B schools in the country and abroad is that we have a very holistic selection process. No one particular parameter is given undue high weightage or undue low weightage, and hence you will see that you can always balance your profile depending upon what are your strength areas, what are your low areas, and you look at the range of GMATs and GREs 565 to 765. That itself shows that you can always balance your parameter. Somebody with 565 had something, two or three other parameters very strong. That's the reason he's in the class today. And somebody with 760, the median score would have other parameters also high or low. So look at your particular parameters and accordingly take a call.
Okay. But as a ballpark figure, can we assume that 10% is to a cats, 30 is
I can't comment on that at
no
all.
problem.
Sorry.
Okay. Any downside of applying in R2 or R3 in comparison to R1?
No.
Because I've often seen scholarships are going more to R1.
No, 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 that's not true. If you see round three, also people have got 100% scholarships. If you're talking about numbers, the number will be a function of people who apply in that particular round. So round three scholarships are lesser, but we have been giving 100% scholarships even in round three if the candidates are deserving. And in terms of the downside, the only downside I see is the timing of your results. So results for round one will come out in November third week. Results for round two will come out by January end, and results for round three will come out on first week of March.
Okay. Fine enough, Amit. Uh, and why average work X is going down at ISP? What do you?
So as I mentioned, average work X is not going down. It's 4 years and a month for this year's batch. Uh, if you look at the website, 4 years and 1 month is the average for this year's batch, which compares similar to last year's averages. And I think it's a function of people who apply also, people are now deciding to do MBAs early rather than wait for 5, 6, 7, 8 years of work.
Yeah.
It's a function of that as well.
Okay, it's a very nuanced question, but if let's say if you have to say anything about it, Amit, what do successful applicants usually do well when they talk about their long-term goals? Like, is it their specificity, scale, or personal connection?
It is there neither of this. I'll say
Yes.
it's the logic that they give across the three things: your skill sets, your what you want to do at ISB, and the long-term and short-term goals. So they connect them well, right? They are very clear about what they are currently. They're very clear about how they can improve by doing an MBA, and how that improvement will result in them getting to their short-term and long-term goals. So that is what is I think they do well, and not in terms of specificity or scale. Even if you're not specific, if you're let's say slightly broad, but if you can relate, have logic across why you will do this, why not this, why ISB, why not an MTech, then that is something which will help you succeed.
Okay. Amit, for need-based scholarship, the limit remains 18 this year as well, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And are you in calculating with CTC or in-hand salary?
We're calculating with gross. So your total salary in hand plus taxes were paid to government. That's all. We don't
Which
we
means
don't look at, yeah, yeah,
CTC.
CTC.
Okay.
But then no bonuses or other stuff. It's more about gross salary that you get yearly.
Okay, fine enough. Is it possible that R2 candidates can have their interview scheduled after R3 as what happened last year, which was very chaotic for some people?
Yeah, I agree. Last year was a bit chaotic in R2 and R3. And there was also the fact that, some interviews got rescheduled because of certain holidays or certain days where we could not get the venues in place. We'll try and avoid that this year. We'll try and we have in fact taken steps already this year that such situation does not repeat. And we have in fact, if you look at the website and the portal, you will find that the results date are also declared.
Yes.
And those are the dates you'll get your results also. So I can tell you right now that you will get your results on that day. And we have taken steps to make that happen.
Okay. Uh, ISEC scholarship. Do you need to be active ISECers now, or any past experience in ISEC will suffice?
My understanding is that if you were past ISECer, that also should suffice. But there's some nuances to it. I'm not sure. I'll get it checked. So Aniket, you can write to pgp@isb.edu and we'll give you a confirmed answer on that.
Okay. Again, people are doing too much of deep dive, but again, pensioner parents' income counted for need based? I think yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, guys, we have taken a lot of time of Amit, but he has been so patient and he has answered all the questions, no matter how niche were they. Uh, Anything else will maybe set for 5 minutes, but please try to be a bit broad and not be very, very specific because, again, if you have understood the entire admission process, you will realize that if you are being too specific, it will not really matter in the larger terms, in a larger view of the entire application process. Okay. Anything else? We can wait for 4 5 minutes and then we can, call it a day. And before we do that, I mean, any parting notes because it's like the R1 is very near. It's almost feels as if it's on our head. So what would you want to talk to people?
So my advice to all of you is that, get your application ready and apply in the round in which your application is ready. The first thing is to be totally ready with your applications. Don't rush your applications to meet the deadline, and also don't procrastinate till the deadline. I know a lot of us do that. If the deadline is 14th, we'll wait till 14 to submit our applications. But guys, it's okay to do it on 10th also or 31st of August also if you're ready. So don't procrastinate, but also don't rush your applications in to meet the deadline. If the 14th of deadline is not realistic for you, feel free to apply in round two. There's no difference between round one, round two, or round three, unless of course you have constraints with the notice period. And also, my experience over the last few years has been that we get the maximum applications on the day of the deadline. So if you feel that you're ready,
Yeah,
don't delay it on the till the last day.
people like to play with the
Go ahead and
fire.
submit. It's perfectly okay.
People like to play with
Yeah.
fire. I don't know why.
And
Okay.
every year I get a request from 5 to 10 people that I missed the deadline. I last day internet disconnection. Last day this. Can we get one more day of extension? Can we get 2 more days of extension? No, guys. There's a deadline for a reason, and it's informed much in advance for a reason. So make sure you submit on the deadline day and or before, and no excuses for last minute glitches or this or that.
Last question before we call it a day. How do you assess whether someone is genuinely self-aware versus simply well-rehearsed during the interview? And my answer to this question is it is very easy to do that for the
Very easy.
interviewers because the nature of the interview. So, Amit, what would you want to say?
So one is that once you are taken those interviews, once you're on the other side of the table, you have been to that particular year. It's very easy to find out who is rehearsed and who is not. And to rehearse 5 questions, 10 questions, 15 questions might be right. To maybe still be possible, but to have various counter questions and to defend your argument, it's not possible to rehearse that as well. And it will
Yeah.
show if you're rehearsed, unless you're genuine, you will not be able to showcase your answers with confidence.
Okay. With
And if you actually are able to rehearse and show yourself as authentic, I would say you have certain skill sets,
Yeah.
and that
Yes. Yes, that deserve
yeah,
some weightage if
scores.
you can
Yeah,
actually do that, because I mean the interviewers just as you had mentioned in the earlier that 1 inch wide, 1 mile deep technique of interviewing, they can just catch and then, and because I have been an interviewer in the past and I have caught so many such people, and it is just a matter of 10 minutes to catch such people. Okay, on that note, Amit, thanks a lot. Again, a fourth year in a row for supporting our community. And as always, we hope to contribute more than 2.5% of the batch this year, maybe 5% if all goes well. And thank you. And I'm sure next few months are going to be crazily hectic for you. So I also wish you best of health. And
sure. And
have
also for those of you who want to meet us in person, we are organizing an info session in Delhi
Delhi. Yeah.
this Sunday at
Yes.
ICIT at
I
Sheraton
will share it
Sunday.
in the our
Yeah.
community today.
Feel free to join us and meet the admissions team in person. Look forward to welcoming you.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Amit.
Thanks, Anshul. Bye.